Hey friends, hello and welcome. I am super excited that you are here and you are ready to attend your wedding shows like a pro. You're going to notice a few things. I talk with my hands. This is just how I work. And I say a lot. So I've been a wedding photographer for 15 years now, and I'm super excited to welcome you and have you here for our insider secrets to finding your dream wedding vendors while staying sane. This is super excited. I'm hoping to keep it short and sweet, but we do have a lot of slides to get through, so let's go. So first off, who are we? I am Marky Jones. I am the lead at Marky Jones Photography, LLC. We are a family-oriented business, and Jake and I shoot as a husband and wife team for 99% of our weddings. We do photography and videography based out of Bonnie Lake, Washington, but we have traveled all over the country, including Connecticut and Texas. Our team includes myself, my husband, Jake, our daughter, Emmy, and we have our three other children that are working their way into various business roles. And right now, they're basically my models. This photo here is actually my entire family. My dad and my mom helped me start my business. My brother and sister-in-law let me borrow their kids when I need extra models. So we kind of are very much a big family business. We've actually been serving couples in the Pacific Northwest and nationwide since 2010. And we've been a Seattle wedding show chosen specialist since 2020. But these tips are not specific to the Seattle wedding show. You can use them for pretty much any show that you're going to attend. So now I'm super excited to tell you we are opening a new-ish sister company called Shoestring Weddings, where we're going to offer virtual wedding planning assistance to couples who maybe you can't afford an entire wedding planner. You just need somebody to kick ideas around with, or you just want that extra set of eyes on your invitation suite or something before you send off those final deals. I actually started Shoestring Weddings in 2007, and I was basically working for friends and family until my first real-ish, it was a family friend. She hired me, and I was also in the wedding party, and said she ended up firing me over a floral budget, unfortunately, because she wasn't happy with my suggestions on her flowers. Since then, since 2007, I have actually learned a lot while working as a wedding photographer, and I tend to go through and help guide most of my photo and video clients during their wedding planning process. So in 2024, I began kicking around the idea of relaunching Shoestring Weddings, and I am super excited to say that we are ready to go, and we will be kicking off taking clients at the end of 2025. If you're interested, you can always drop me a line and see how we can get together and I can help you. But that's not what this is about. We are here because we love wedding shows, and we love them for several reasons. The first one being that there are tons of amazing vendors all gathered in one location. No driving from venue to venue or trying to coordinate appointments and get together on Zoom and everything else, which brings us to point number 2, which is meeting in person makes for better interactions. I have such a hard time reading people on the internet, and I'm sure a lot of us do. It's hard when you're behind a screen and it's too easy to get distracted by other things, whether it's kids in the background or the 4,200 tabs you have open on your computer. So we really, truly love in-person interactions. Also with the wedding shows, you're going to find deals and samples that you can't score outside of the wedding shows. There's a few vendors who run sales, but it's kind of a thing in the Pacific Northwest to keep most of our sales to wedding shows, simply because it's a lot easier for you to get to know us to get to know you when you guys are face to face. And on top of that, it's a full weekend of up close and personal interactions, and it gives you a better idea of what you do and don't want. usually by standing there and chatting with somebody for 5 or 10 minutes, you can tell if you guys are going to vibe or if you're not going to vibe. And that's really helpful when you know that you're going to be spending your entire day or several hours of your life building up to your wedding day with this person. And it's extremely important that you guys get to know your vendors and the vendors get to know you during the whole process. So we are absolutely extremely ecstatic for being part of the wedding show circuit here in the Pacific Northwest and Western Washington. And I highly, highly recommend wedding shows for anyone planning a wedding. Okay, so story time. Remember when I said in 2007 I started shoestring weddings? At the time I was planning my own wedding, and so I was a bride to be, and I was planning the weddings of several of my family members at the same time. And during that time, the only wedding show that was really out there was the Seattle wedding show. And so I packed up my mom. We went up to the Seattle wedding show. I was a whopping 20 years old, 21 years old maybe. And we're walking through and I'm looking at all of the absolutely gorgeous booths. I mean, even back then in 2007, I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. And they still, at that point, they did these extravagant booths. They were beautiful. And so we're walking through and I found this photography booth, and it was incredible work. I mean, we're talking like 20 by 30 canvases and giant, beautiful heirloom albums. And the woman that was standing in the booth she looked very professional. And so I walked over and I asked her, what does your packages start at? And she looked me dead in the eye and said, little girl, you can't afford me. She went on to tell me that her prices were over $10,000 and that $10,000 was her starting point to walk out her door. And while, yes, she was right, I could not afford her. The heart crushing feeling that I had as I walked through the rest of the show, it really put a damper and a gray cloud over my experience that year at the Seattle wedding show. So when I became a photographer and I started shooting weddings, I made it a goal to become a Seattle wedding show chosen specialist. And in 2020, I made that goal. I achieved that goal because my thing is just because somebody cannot afford you does not mean they should be made to feel terrible. And there should not be anybody at the show that is making you feel like you don't belong there, because you do, because there are vendors for every budget, regardless of whether you are at the wedding show or you are searching online. So that is why we came in and we decided to become a Seattle wedding show chosen specialist. And this is also why I created this masterclass, because every time somebody walks in and they get overwhelmed, and unfortunately, as much as the show staff tries, we cannot always control the type of vendor that comes in. And sometimes there are vendors who are just very blunt and they are not very nice, and it kind of makes us feel bad. So while I want you to be prepared walking in to know what you're looking for, who you're looking for, and how to go about the show floor without feeling like you're being sold to. So today we're going to learn how to get the most out of your wedding show experience, what the necessary pre-show prep is, and how we're going to navigate the show floor. That's a very specific way. I don't want you walking in and getting drug into the first booth you see unless it is somebody you were there to look at or a vendor that you actually need. And then we're also going to cover your best plan for post-show follow-ups. So ready? Let's dive in. Why attend a wedding show? We went over this a little bit, but let's dig into it a little more. So wedding show benefits, you get to meet your vendors face-to-face, which is extremely important. I already went over interactions in person are so much better than interactions online. You'll score exclusive show-only deals. You can actually see and touch real wedding products. That's one of the big sellers. And I always tell my clients, even if you've already hired me, I'm going to give you tickets to whatever my next show is that's coming up, provided there's one between now and your wedding. And you're going to come in so that you can feel and touch my products and you can see what the albums feel like in your hand. And it's so much better because, you might not think that you want an album or a canvas, or you might not think that you need those super cute beer koozies. But once you get them in your hands, sometimes your mind changes. If it doesn't, that's okay. But we want you to be able to touch things in real life and not just go to Oriental Trading and order those beer koozies and then find out that they're falling apart halfway through your wedding. Definitely not a thing. You're going to save so much planning time because you get to go in, you will have all of these vendors at your disposal. Everybody's wonderful. It's going to be really great for you to be able to narrow down what you do and what you don't want. And you're going to get inspiration that you didn't know you needed. You're also going to find out that, maybe those giant tablescape florals that you wanted aren't necessarily budget friendly for you. And you might find different inspiration that you really love. So, story time. We're going to talk for a minute about the Tacoma wedding show that I didn't attend. In 2019 in January, I actually did my first ever wedding show. It was the Tacoma wedding show when it was at the Tacoma Dome. And it was fun. I actually enjoyed it. I'm super introverted, so it's really weird to see me in video and on in person. I'm super quiet, where Jake's he's the talker. He's the one who's going to sit there and he's going to ask you all the questions and everything else because that's what he does. And so January of 2019, I did my first wedding show. I did it all by myself and it was okay. I wasn't super sold on it, but Jake encouraged me to sign up for the September 2019 Tacoma wedding show. And since I was getting into the 2020 Seattle wedding show, I was like, we need to go ahead and we need to do this. So right around February of 2019, I found out I was pregnant with our first son. And wouldn't you know, he was due the weekend of the Tacoma wedding show. So on Friday, during September 2019's Tacoma wedding show, I checked into the hospital, had a baby. Jake hung out with me all day, and then he went to the wedding show on Saturday and Sunday. At that wedding show, he actually met several couples. I think we booked 7 or 8 couples from that one wedding show that I wasn't even at. So, I mean... it's nice to be able to get to know people, but they would video chat me while I was in the hospital, and they were all checking out their people. This bride right here on the screen is actually one that booked at that wedding show right before everything shut down for the pandemic. So that was pretty fun to actually be able to meet her eventually and then photograph their wedding. I believe it was in 2021 because we had to move everything around. But yeah, so we've been doing wedding shows since 2019. We were in the 2020 and then the 2022, 23, and 24 Seattle wedding shows, and we just finished 2025. So we've done 4 shows with Seattle, and we've done 4 or 5 with Tacoma. I don't quite remember anymore. I've lost track, honestly. It's a lot. So, but let's keep moving. I want to make sure you get all this information. Pre-show prep. Okay, guys. So what do you need to do before you arrive at the wedding show? This is your homework for the next 3 or 4 days if you're coming to Puyallup. If you're going to, I believe there's ACS in June. There's a couple other shows and a couple of, there's going to be a wedding tour out in the South Lewis or the East Lewis County area in May. So keep an eye out for those things. But this is what you need to do prior to attending your wedding show. So first things first, you have a must-do list. You need to set your priorities. If it's to go and meet certain vendors, you need to know which vendors you're looking for, whether it's photography, DJs, hair and makeup artists, uh, venues, whatever your priority list is. If you just got engaged, I highly recommend starting with venues and photographers. If you have been engaged for a little while, maybe you have your venue, you have your photographer, it's time for you to look into DJs, catering, and hair and makeup. There's almost always dress vendors. So if you are anywhere in your planning process and you have not gotten your dress yet, definitely check them out because they have great show specials. Okay, your second must do. You're going to want to create a wedding only email. This is the email you are going to give all of those vendors in their sign up sheets so that your personal inbox does not get flooded. This is also the email you're going to use to sign up for the wedding show, with whether you have to buy tickets or you are just a free registration. That way, when they turn around, and the wedding show will most likely give that attendee list to all of the vendors who were there. So regardless of whether you stopped and talked to them, they probably have your email address at this point. So you want to make sure that you are not giving them your personal email address, especially if you're like me and you have 38,000 emails in your personal email address. My business email is at 0 unread emails, just an FYI. But I make sure it's at 0 at least once a day. But my personal email, I might check that every 3 or 4 days. And so it's at several thousand emails. Along with that, you're going to want to pre-register for the show. So give them that wedding only email address. And that way, when they give your contact out to the vendors, all of those emails are going to go in one place. You can log in and concentrate on your wedding planning in that email box. Next up, you're going to want to bring labels with your contact info. If you don't have a printer, or you figure you're going to sign up online, a lot of vendors have QR codes or online sign-up sheets or digital sign-ups. Labels aren't going to work for that, but you can set your wedding only email address as your main contact in your iPhone. I don't know if your Android will do the same thing, but your iPhone will let you fill with your current contact information. So if you're doing it on your phone, you want to wear comfy shoes. I know we all like to look cute. We all like to get dressed up, and it's kind of a fun thing to get dressed up and go to the wedding show. But you're going to be walking. You are going to be on your feet. And especially if you go to one like Seattle where it's over 400 vendors, you're going to spend all day there. Wear your comfy shoes, or at the very least, throw a pair of comfy flats in your bag so when your feet get sore, you can swap shoes out. I actually recommend this for vendors as well. Bring an extra pair of shoes because you're on your feet all day. All right, now you're going to want to pack your bag. I'm going to go over your packing list here in just a couple of minutes, but you are going to want to bring a bag that has all your goodies in it and has room for extra goodies because you're going to get them. And then you want to follow your favorite vendors ahead of time. This is one of the things a lot of the vendors will post their show specials. They'll post ways to get in contact with them. And so you can get a head start by following those vendors either online, on their social media, going to their websites, signing up for newsletters, any of those things. And if you sign up for the newsletters, use your wedding only email address. So onto your packing list. The packing list is definitely a must-have. This is pretty much what I bring with me anytime I go anywhere, not just to wedding shows, but this is what you're going to want to bring. You're going to want to bring supportive shoes. Back to that shoe thing. You're walking, you're standing. There's most likely not a whole lot of places to sit. So you definitely want those supportive shoes. You want a water bottle and snacks. Don't eat too much though, because a lot of the places will have your caterers, your bakers, most of those will end up having some sort of sample, and you're going to want to leave room to taste the good food. You want a reusable bag. Usually the show will give reusable bags to the first however many people come through the door. If you don't get one there, I know at Puyallup, Chris with Wedding Painter, he has bags. Go get one of his. They're really pretty. So a reusable bag, and if you have a folder or a binder that you can slide business cards into, bonus points if you already have tabs, so you can put them in the proper tab, like your venues in the venue tab and your photographers in the photographer tab. I always love seeing people who are super, super organized like that, because it makes their lives much easier later. A portable charger. Bring your portable charger. Your phone's going to die. You're going to take pictures with it. It's going to be fun. Sorry, had to pause there for a second. Okay, so a portable charger for your phone, because your phone's probably going to die at some point. Either your contact setup in your phone or pre-printed labels. You're going to want some spending cash, whether it's cash or digital. Either way, I know several of the vendors actually do have things you can buy there on site, so you're going to want that. Your planner or notebook for keeping notes. You can also do this on your phone if you want to, if you're super digital like that. But I like having paper notes personally. And then your phone or wallet. So don't forget this. I can't tell you how many times I have left the house without my wallet in a hurry because I'm excited to get somewhere. It happens. Don't leave your phone or wallet at home. Bring those with. All right. Frequently asked question. Do you book weddings at the show? Okay. Personally, we don't. We can, but we don't personally book at the show just because you're going to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff going on. Making decisions on the spot is not the way we like to run. We don't want you to jump into something right away and then decide that, oh, wait, there were so many great vendors there. I feel like I jumped the gun. So we don't personally book at the show. There are some vendors that do book at the show, and some of them will try to make you feel like you have to book that day in order to get the show special. If you're not comfortable with that, if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, definitely think whether or not you would want that vendor. If you're super excited and you find the perfect vendor, absolutely you can book them at the show. I don't see why you couldn't. If I've had couples come back and go, we definitely want you, and they are ready to book right away, and we have done it right then and there. But if you're not comfortable booking at the show, don't feel like you have to, because you don't. All right, so we're going to move on to the day of the show and how you're going to navigate the show floor. You are going to love this. This is what I personally do when I go places. Sorry. Even like we go to the reptile show and I'm like, we have to make a loop first because I want to see what's out there. So we're going to dig into this and I'm going to get you your game plan. Ready? Your day of game plan. Okay, grab a piece of paper because you want to write this down. So you're going to start with your must-see vendors. If this is your first wedding show ever and you don't have a venue, I highly recommend that you start with venues, because a lot of places you're going to need a date and a venue before they're going to book you for anything else. So that includes like your photographers, your videographers, hair and makeup, catering. All of those are going to require that you have a date and a venue, with the few exceptions where photographers have special deals that you can get your engagement session and then come back for your wedding portraits. So you're going to make a list. You're going to start with your must-see vendors. Go through. The floor plan is usually online, so you can get a list. You can figure out what vendors you want. If they don't have a floor plan or a vendor list online, go the morning of, get there first thing in the morning, get a map, and then bring a highlighter and sit down and highlight the must-see vendors. Okay, those are going to be the ones that you stop at first. So once you have your must-see vendors, you are going to take your map when you arrive and you are going to walk around down each one of the aisles. People will probably talk to you. Just say hi, say you're getting a feel for it, say you'll be back, I'll be back. somebody says, hey, are you looking for this? Say, oh, sorry, not right now. We'll be back if we need one in the future. So they don't really need to know that maybe you haven't found your venue yet, or you could tell them, hey, we're still looking for a venue. That's another way to really like, it's kind, but it's not letting them pull you in and give you all of this information. Okay. So you're going to make your loop, and then you're going to go talk to your must-see vendors. While you're talking to them, take notes, take photos of things, whether it's pricing sheets or it's decor they have in their booth, or maybe it's something super memorable or their show special. If a vendor ever stops you and says, hey, you can't take a picture of that, that would be a red flag for me, and I would probably walk away, honestly. So definitely just like take notes, take photos, do what you can to remember that vendor. If you can get a business card or a 3x5 card and write their name and the information on it, bring some 3x5 cards even. That would be a good idea. So that you can have something solid that has your handwriting and your notes. Your phone works for taking notes too, so don't feel like you have to do pen and paper. Next up, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, you should be able to ask questions about how they work. They should be able to tell you who you would get on the day of. If there's a specific, if you're looking at caterers and there's a specific food allergy, if they ask them if they can deal with that food allergy, if they can do the proper procedures to make sure that nobody gets accidentally exposed. So ask all the questions, take notes on the answers. Next up, you're going to enter giveaways. Enter those smartly. Don't just enter every giveaway that you see because, oh, well, I might want that. Like, if you aren't 100% sure that you would want whatever service they are giving you, it's not really worth it to enter the giveaway because it's just going to waste your time. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the giveaways as, is this something I'm really going to need? So if you've already had an engagement session and you're not considering hiring that photographer, don't sign up for their engagement session. It's not like, it's just a kindness thing again. Like, don't sign up for an engagement session when you've already had one and you're not going to use the photographer for your wedding. So definitely make sure that you're being, we like to be nice about stuff like that. So definitely enter giveaways that you know you want and are from service providers that you might actually use. Collect your business cards, okay, and then sort them, whether you're sorting them in like a card file or something on the day of, or you're just tossing them all in your bag and you're going to sort them later. You do want to make sure that you sort them. A lot of the times I see couples who bring an envelope, and the vendors that they really connect with and they really love, they put those business cards in that envelope and the rest of the business cards go in their bag. So, because a lot of people will hand you business cards whether you want them to or not. Have fun, guys. Okay. I understand that this sounds like a really serious business and this is super overwhelming and everything else, but have fun. Okay. You're not just there. You're planning the biggest day of your life, but you are not just there to gather information. You are there to enjoy yourself. You are there to get to know people. You are there to have fun. Have fun and say yes to those cake tastings. Cakes. I mean, everybody needs a cake, right? Or something. So now this very last one, I want you to pay close attention to which vendors start packing up before the end of the show announcement if you are there close to show close. Okay. I'm going to go over that in just a minute. But if you're there on Sunday, 2:30, close to 3 o'clock, pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you. It's really easy to get super focused on what we're talking about, but I'm going to go over that in just a minute. So that's your day of game plan. You're going to start with your must-see vendors. You're going to make a loop around for those, and then you're going to go back and anybody else that catches your eye. So you make one loop just to see everything. a loop to see the vendors that you absolutely love, and then a third loop that is for anybody else that you might see. So my biggest pet peeves at wedding shows, and none of them are actually the attendees. My biggest pet peeve, I really only have one. And this goes back to that. If you are there close to show close and you are talking to vendors, and there's another vendor that maybe you talked to earlier that you really liked, and that other vendor starts packing their stuff before the announcer has said the Puyallup wedding show has now closed, or Seattle wedding show has now closed, or doors are now closed. If those people are packing up when you are still standing there as a customer, whether you're talking to them or you're talking to somebody else, those are going to be the same vendors that at your wedding, they're going to start packing up. They're going to see that maybe not everybody's still dancing on the dance floor, so they're going to start cleaning things up. Or they're going to see that, you're getting ready for your final dance and your send off, and they're going to start breaking things down. Those vendors, I understand that time is valuable, and I understand that everybody usually wants to go home at the end of an event. But this is your wedding day. Nothing should be torn down until you have left. And if vendors are tearing down their booths when you're not yet their client, don't expect them to be doing anything different when you are. So that's my pet peeve. And every single one of the shows that we do, the show staff will tell you that Marky's biggest pet peeve is vendors who tear down their booths before doors close. And if you're a vendor and you're watching this, you know it's true. Y'all know it's true. So, on to the next question. What if I get overwhelmed? We all do. We all get overwhelmed. Even as vendors who are sitting there and we got 5 or 6 people coming at us, we're overwhelmed. Straight up, don't be surprised if you see me curled up on the floor. It could happen, okay? Wedding shows are overwhelming. There is so much information to take in. They are loud. The lights are not fabulous. If you have migraine glasses, I highly recommend wearing them because those overhead lights are nasty. But if you get overwhelmed, don't feel like you are not allowed to take a break. You are. Absolutely. You could be in the middle of talking to a vendor, and if you just say, hey, look, I'm going to go take a break and I'm going to come back. Be honest. Tell them, hey, this is a little overwhelming for me. I'm going to go get a drink and I'll be back. Usually that's a really good way for the vendor to kind of get a feel for, the fact that you want to continue talking, but you really just need a break. And if you need a break, absolutely. You can go ahead, you can take a break. We usually have chairs in our booth. If you are out wandering around and you come across our booth and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's too much going on, you are more than welcome to come sit in a chair. We will absolutely allow you to come sit in a chair. If you're not at a show that we're at, usually you can find an area that has, Puyallup will have food trucks. Seattle has a little restaurant area that you can go and you can grab something to eat. You can sit down, have a drink, take a breather, and then you can come back. And that right there is the best thing that you can do when you get overwhelmed. I don't recommend leaving just because you're going to want to grab that information. And that's also why I tell you to take 3 different loops around. So you take your first loop for the vendors you absolutely need, your second loop for the vendors who catch your eye, and your third loop is just to tie up loose ends. So when you get overwhelmed, take a break. It's okay. Now, what do we do after the show? Okay, show's over. You have left. You have had your scones from the scone truck at Puyallup. Okay. You're going to come home with a bag. This is the next step of overwhelm. Like, if you felt like you were overwhelmed at the show, take a breather, sleep on it, and then on Monday or Tuesday, go ahead and move on to after the show. So you're coming home with a massive bag of information. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to ignore the massive amount of emails that you are about to get. On my blog, I have a instruction guide for how to organize your email system so that it will go through and it will dump. You could literally take and go anything that says Seattle Wedding Show, I want it to dump it into a Seattle Wedding Show folder. Anything that says Puyallup Wedding Show, I want it to dump it into a Puyallup Wedding Show folder, and then you can go through and organize them. Those instructions are on my blog. I will drop that link below. So while I do encourage you to take a break and breathe through all the information that you've just gathered, it is imperative that you sort through your vendor info within 48 hours, okay? And when I say sort through, I mean sit down at a table or on the floor and make piles. Vendors you absolutely love, vendors you probably aren't gonna contact, and vendors that just shoved business cards at you. Like, put those in an extra pile, okay? Vendors, are you listening? Don't shove business cards at people. So put your piles together. Take the vendors that you absolutely loved and make sure you follow up with those ones. Those are your favorites. Follow up with those contacts. Get in their inboxes so that you can get direct access to them. The next ones you can kind of set aside that you might need, but maybe you're not sure. And then those third ones, just push them off. If you were scheduling consultations at the show and maybe you missed somebody, or there was a vendor that you really loved that you didn't get to schedule a consultation with, maybe they weren't taking consultations at the time, or you just missed getting on their schedule when you came around for one of your tours through the show. Send them emails, schedule consultations. We personally have consultations right on our website, so you can do that from there, and get on their schedule so you can sit and talk to them. This is out of order because you should compare notes with your partner first. So we should have moved that all the way up to the top, but definitely compare notes with your partner. Maybe your partner loved somebody that you didn't really talk to, or maybe you were in the bathroom and they found this really cool tuxedo company that they want to go talk to. Like, definitely go through and chat with your partners, see if there was anything they liked. I know a lot of the times our partners are kind of hands off and they're not like, nah. You might tell them, hey, did you see something you liked? And they might go, yeah, the motorcycle out back. It happens. Okay. Like, I ask my husband for things all the time and he doesn't really answer. So compare notes with your partner. And then if you fall in love with a vendor, book early. Find out what you need to do in order to book. For us, we don't actually require that you have a venue or a wedding date. We do allow you to book your engagement session, and then provided we are available for your wedding, when you do have a wedding date and a venue, you can come back to us. So ask if there's any way that you can get them booked prior to getting all of those steps taken care of if you don't have them taken care of. If you do have your venue and your wedding date already taken care of, then absolutely get on their books. Book those vendors that you love, because there are like 1,800 weddings a year in that come through the doors of each wedding show. So I think Tacoma was only about 15. Seattle said 18. Puyallup's usually about 1,000. So there's a lot of weddings out there that if you fall in love with somebody, you need to book them, and book them quick. Story time. Okay, guys, here we go again. When to click unsubscribe. Okay. You remember when I told you that there are going to be a lot of vendors that are going to send you emails? So the wedding show, when you register, a lot of the times you get put on a list. There's usually a box you can click or unclick that says send me emails or give my information to the vendors to send me emails. If you didn't see that or you didn't realize you had to unclick that or click it or however it's set up, it all depends on the show. Your email address is going to go into a mailing list and that's going to be passed out to all of the vendors. So, like I said earlier, I highly recommend if you're using Gmail, set up filters so that your emails, everything that talks about Seattle Wedding Show goes to the Seattle folder. Everything that talks about Puyallup goes to Puyallup. Everything that talks about Tacoma goes to Tacoma. And then go through those folders. And if you don't need a photographer, absolutely click unsubscribe from every photography email. Don't keep them just because you might need something later. If it's a vendor who has personally reached out to you, a simple, hey, we already found our photographer, thanks for reaching out, is great because that means that they know that, that you no longer want to be contacted by them. It doesn't hurt our feelings for you to unsubscribe. Yeah, sometimes it's like, oh, that's a bummer. These people unsubscribe. But 9 times out of 10, it's an email address and we don't know who you are. Now, if you came and you were like my best friend at the show and then you unsubscribed, that's a totally different story. But for the most part, don't feel like you're going to hurt anybody's feelings by unsubscribing to emails that you don't need because you don't need them. And there's no point in just like letting your inbox continually fill up and fill up and fill up. Remember that overwhelm we talked about? Let's take care of that ahead of time and click that unsubscribe button. All right. So is there a cooling off period? In the state of Washington, as far as I know, there is not. Most of the wedding vendors, a lot of them have non-refundable retainers. So everybody's contract is going to be super individualized and it's going to be based on their business. If you find somebody, I highly recommend reading through the entire contract, all of the words. I know they get wordy and they get lengthy and sometimes they're hard to understand, but make sure you read through everything because it's really hard to say. Like some places might have a cooling off period, but for the most part, the state of Washington, I don't believe requires us to have one. If I'm wrong and you know I'm wrong, please email me and tell me because I will change this. We will make this right. But the other thing to keep in mind is the fact that most of the vendors show specials are going to expire. And whether they expire in 2 days or 10 days or a month from now, that's going to vary vendor to vendor. So definitely keep an eye on when expiration dates are on any of the information that you pick up and make sure you make your solid decision before you try and book somebody. Okay. Okay, I promise we are almost done. We're going to cover a couple of wedding trends that we are seeing at the shows for 2025 and 2026. First things first, our biggest wedding trends or micro weddings are here to stay. They kind of became a thing during COVID and now they're just not going away. Bold colors are making a comeback, even with the neutrals that are dominating color of the year. People are actually increasing weekend weddings. So I'm super excited to see more couples opting for Monday to Thursday weddings and leaving weekends free for their families or for people to travel. And then sustainable weddings and eco-friendly choices are on the rise. A few of our favorite places like Vita Bridal and Brides for a Cause have really made that second life dress a thing, and I'm loving it. I am here for it. Story time, how we ended up photographing multi-event weddings. So this couple on the screen actually was they had a wedding at a campground and it was super cool because everybody came in the night before. They had a welcome dinner. We got to go out and hang out with them. We got to know everybody. They kept telling me I didn't have to work, but I brought my camera anyway because why not? And then Saturday they had their wedding and Sunday everybody packed up and left. Oh my gosh. But we actually ended up photographing multi-event weddings back in 2019 when I got contacted by a bride who wanted to go and she wanted to elope with all of her favorite people, which was about 10 people. But her family really wanted her to have a big party. So we went up to Crystal Mountain. She eloped at Crystal Mountain with just a small group of people. We went and had lunch, went back home, edited her photos, and 2 weeks later, she had a giant party. So we did this giant reception and everybody got to come in. They got to have fun. They got to party. They got to drink. They got to eat, and the whole thing. And this was actually the model that held my personal business through COVID. Through the pandemic, we shot several that they wanted to have small, intimate elopements because that was what we were allowed to do at the time. And then they chose to go back and have giant receptions later. And so that was how we kind of got to photographing these multi-event weddings. And one of the things that we really love doing is working out specialty packages for these because that's how we work. We want you to have what you want to have. So finally, the question that I get asked almost every single time: what if I don't need an engagement session, but my chosen photography package includes one? Okay, I'm going to try and make this short and sweet. Your engagement session, regardless of whether you have already had one or not, is your insurance policy that you are going to end up loving that photographer. Every photographer shoots differently. And that can become an issue if you might see some absolutely beautiful photos on their website, but get in front of their camera and find that you're not super comfortable with them. Maybe they're not as personable as you were hoping, or you really want that flow posing direction and they're a more formal posing person, posing photographer, I guess. So we personally always require that you have an engagement session. If you book another photographer, you might have to add your engagement session on, but your engagement session is your insurance. Think of it as an insurance policy or kind of a warranty that you have your engagement session. If you absolutely love the photos, you're good. You're great to go. Like nothing else needs to be done. But if you get your photos back and maybe you don't like the style, maybe you thought it was going to be a different experience, maybe you just really don't flow or mesh with that photographer, your engagement session is your trial for your wedding day. It's kind of like having a hair and makeup trial. You want to try it out ahead of time so that if you need to walk away, you can walk away. And that is one of the reasons that I always require, even if you've had an engagement session with us prior or with somebody else prior. If you had it with us prior, I mean, you already know how we work. But with us, we always require you have an engagement session prior to your wedding so that you get to try us on for size. All right. We're going to head into some final thoughts here. I promise we are almost done. We got 2 slides left, guys. 2 slides. So when you go to the wedding shows, they are definitely a game changer. You are going to get so much information thrown at you. It's going to be overwhelming. But with this class, we just talked about what your game plan is for staying out of that overwhelm. So you got this. You're going to be good. You're prepared. You're going to have fun. And make sure you trust your gut. Don't love a vendor. Don't book them. Easy as pie. Where can you find us? So in 2025, we still have the Puyallup Wedding Show left. It is on February 22nd and 23rd. We'll be in booth 701. So you'll find us right on your way to the bathroom. Not that I planned that. But we will definitely be there. The 2026 Tacoma Wedding Show, I believe the dates are supposed to be like the second weekend in January, but I haven't heard officially yet. You can keep an eye on their website, tacomaweddingshows.com, and check back for those. And then the 2026 Seattle Wedding Show is going to be January 31st through February 1st of 2026. And those tickets will go on sale in late 2025. If you're looking for us, you can find us online on our website at markyjonesweddings.com. I'm on Instagram at Marky Jones Photography LLC and on Facebook at MJP LLC. So if you need some extra help with planning your wedding or someone to just bounce ideas off of, maybe you need a photographer still, feel free to reach out. Even if you just have questions and you're not sure how to approach something, trust me, I got you. Thanks for hopping on. Talk to you later.